Time is now 7 p.m. I invite you to stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Roll call. Larry.
Certainly, I'll see if I can do that. Commissioner Barker.
Here, yes.
Commissioner Begeman.
Here.
Commissioner Cantwell.
Here.
Vice Chair Hanchey.
Here.
Chair Heck.
Here.
Commissioner Cross.
Here.
Commissioner Gage.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Thank you, Larry. All right, next item on the agenda is consideration of approval for this evening's agenda. Do I hear a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
Very good. Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Roll call. Larry.
Commissioner Gage.
Yes.
Commissioner Barker.
Yes.
Commissioner Begeman.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantwell.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hanchey.
Yes.
Chair Heck.
Yes.
Commissioner Cross.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Thank you. All right, so there are no public hearings scheduled for this evening. There is one item of old business. It's case P-21-50-MPC and P-21-51-MPC regarding the proposed rezoning of approximately 8,089 acres from general rural low-density single-family residential to master plan community zoning to facilitate the development of 8 development units consisting of residential, commercial, and industrial uses. The 8,089 acres is made up of 2 parcels. The first is approximately 2,783 acres of land auctioned by the Arizona State Land Development on November 4th, 2020, where D.R. Horton was the winning bidder in the auction property case. And the second parcel consists of approximately 5,306 acres, which is being retained by the Arizona State Land Department for future disposition, or the retained property. Property is generally bounded by Baseline Avenue on the north to the Fry Road alignment on the south, and from Meridian Drive on the west to the Central Arizona Project Canal to the east. Sydney, we done? Can we leave now?
I think you got it all, Commissioner Heck, or Chair Heck. For the record, my name is Sidney Rice. I'm one of the planners on staff. The purpose of tonight's meeting is really a reminder and really a progress report of what you've already heard from staff and the development team regarding the MPCs for the retained property and the auction property. So just a reminder, we've already had a meeting regarding the auction property here. The auction property is located from Elliott to Ray and Meridian to the Idaho alignment, which is outlined in that gray hatch there. And then the retained property is the orange parcel there. Just as a reminder, the auction MPC is broken down into 3 levels of planning, really. We have the master plan community document itself, then we have a second level of planning, which is the development unit plan, which is just a bit more detail than the MPC, and then we have the plats, which are the final planning document that we will see. The MPC outline is broken down into 4 chapters. As we mentioned last time in staff's presentation, the bulk of those planning efforts happen in the Chapter 3 in the regulatory framework, and once again in the development unit plan and in the development standards and design guidelines. All of those bullet points are included in the MPC. So it covers topics from the drainage report to open space and parks plan. It talks about walls, it talks about architecture, talks about residential standards and commercial standards. So it has a wide range of topics that it notes in detail. The retained MPC is similar in its outlined. Again, the majority of the plan efforts happen in the 3rd chapter. But unlike the auction MPC, we do not have a development unit plan for the retained property. And the reason for that is because those parcels have not been auctioned yet, so there is no developer. The MPC is really the regulatory framework for future development plans, future unit development plans. So really it outlines submittal requirements for those future plans. It provides a land use budget, and it also gives some guiding language for permitted uses. So when those parcels do get auctioned, both staff and future developers have a clear understanding of what is expected and what will be covered in their development plans. So examples of that again are a drainage plan, water plan, and they're really basis reports. We've changed terminology quite just a bit. They'll have to address landscape plans and lighting plans and signage plans. So really the same items that you are seeing in detail for the auction property, you will see at a future date when those parcels get auctioned for the retained property. Just a reminder, this is a work session item. The public hearing is on September 14th, and then after that, we'll have two council work sessions, one on 9/20 and the other on 10/4, with possible adoption and approval on 10/5. That concludes my very short presentation. I could go through any of the details of the presentation, or perhaps you have any questions regarding the attachments to the agenda, which are the retained MPC and the auction MPC. Open for questions.
Mr.
Commissioners?
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Parker.
I would like, Sydney, when we saw this the first time, there was a list of staff responses to the original document in which they were wondering, there were a lot of mays instead of shalls, et cetera, et cetera. So has that all been addressed at this point?
Commissioner Barker, yes, and I think I have one of those slides. So in the first work session item that we had, we really just summarized the comments that we sent to the development team, and they're really the bullet points that are in front of you right now. And I could say that, yes, we've come a long way, and we're on the same page, and there's been quite a progression made to have the appropriate language in the document that satisfies staff's asks and requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioners, questions? Jesse, looks like you have a question.
I've got one. And I read the draft, and now I've read the next draft of the auction property, and then went through the retained property. And you go through the Apache Junction general plan components, and the developer responds on each element. I'm curious, in the environmental section, we're going to protect sensitive areas. Is the, I'm not quoting it, it's
Sure.
my words. Have any studies been done on archaeological or sensitive species that are down there? Since it's private property, I don't think it's required, but.
Try. A few years ago, there was a study on land tortoises, and they didn't find any. So that's kind of the major species of interest down there. In terms of, then we already have provisions in our code, and they have been following through the developers with our protected plants. So they have to go through the Arizona Department of Agriculture, and they have to go, if they're going to relocate certain plants. But a lot of the terrain is different than if it were terrain further up here, and there were more saguaros, and there were more. That's been an area that's been heavily grazed for 4 or 5 generations. There's a race track or whatever on there, so it has had some impacts from 5 generations of grazing. But they are still required if there are species that are under state protection or under our ordinance. They do have to relocate those. So that's the major thing. Floodplains, I think floodplains are really because of the flood retardant structure that's there in the CAP canal. So they're actually going through an amendment process to take lands west of the canal through a letter of map revision out of the floodplain. So if this were an area, say, east of Gold Canyon, north of the US 60, that area probably where there's 6,000 acres of lands that are more conservation oriented, yeah, I think we'd be having a different conversation, but not here.
Yeah, just my past experience has been on federal property, my mining background, and we had to do some extensive work before we could disturb anything.
Yeah, this is not like California where they have the, what is it, CEQA in California. Basically, every single development has to go through a mini, like NEPA type process. That's just not, yeah. Right.
Not in Arizona. And the federal issues, there's, I'm sure, I know that the developers looked into the endangered species issues, just like I think the state did. So I don't know if there's a certain beetle down there or an owl that has to be relocated, but I'm pretty sure they looked into those things probably a year and a half ago.
All right. Thanks.
Mr. Chair,
Another
I have
question? Yep.
another question real fast. Before that September 14th meeting, can we have a hard copy of this?
Absolutely, Commissioner Burke, I could get that to you by the end of the week.
Thank you.
Well, we're getting the final revisions on the 6th, is that correct? So we may have to hand deliver them to you on Tuesday, the 7th. But we'll,
And that will work just so that we can write it all over it. And
Certainly.
scribble. I
so
like
we'll
to
have to
draw.
make copies. We burned up the copy machine just making 3, so we have to figure out how to, they were inadvertently made color, but
Oh, dear.
we may have to send it out or something, but we'll make sure that you have the color copy.
Oh,
Double-sided.
yeah, definitely. Color. You can make it black and white as far as I'm.
Well, I think it
I
is
just
helpful to
want the
see some of the
verbiage.
maps and the graphics, I think are good.
Okay,
You get a better sense of the quality of what the development's going to be, I think, with color.
thank you.
And I did see something on page 16 of the auctioned property. The last sentence just kind of ends.
Yeah, we fixed all those.
Okay, good.
So many of us have read this.
A
couple times.
Have you got it memorized, Larry?
No, I do not have it. Sydney does, though.
I'm dreaming about it.
Dreaming or?
I only read the odd pages.
Oh.
Sydney read the even pages, so that's how we kind of worked it.
Gotcha.
Good call. Yeah, that's great.
As far as the stormwater is concerned, with the retention basins on the east side of the canal, those have been adequate for our heavier than normal monsoon season this year?
Have no idea, but seems to work, Maricopa County Flood Control, and I don't know that we got the rains here that we got in other parts of the valley, but
No.
6 inches in 3 days, I don't know that happened here, but yeah, it works. There has been no downstream flooding, and like I said, the whole area west of the canal is being removed from the FEMA flood insurance rate maps.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Sid. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, Commissioner Croft.
yes. With the recent reductions in water allowance from CAP, will this have any effect, going forward with this project and future projects for this?
Commissioner Cross, we have a lot of regulatory framework that limits the size of turf areas and how they could be used, and if it's irrigated by non-potable water. So there's a lot of language associated to water conservation.
Mm-hmm.
So Tier 1 doesn't affect this property. So the Tier 1, couple things, farmers in Pinell County, it really hurts if you've read a lot about this. They can't use surface water. So the surface water is going to irrigation, so now they can use groundwater, which isn't necessarily a good thing. And then you also read as part of that, Pinell County, ADEQ has said that they will not give permits. So that what you have to have is a designation of assured water supply, and ADEQ said they're not going to issue those. So I think it will hamper other parts of Pinell County, but what it could do is it forces development to this area. So and maybe it's a good consequence, but supposedly there's a 40% chance that we could go to Tier 3, so then we're really going to start looking at conservation measures and everything else. So I think we have tried to think with this one water concept, and to me it makes sense to limit the water use here as much as possible, because that will affect the state's ability to sell land. If they don't have water, there's no land to auction. So I think The Tier 1 doesn't affect this property. The city has adequate water to serve this property, so.
Thank you.
So this, ultimately, the city will have to go out and acquire more water. The water district, I should say.
I also like some of the underground stormwater retention. You know, I didn't read it in any detail, but it seemed like there was quite a bit of provisions to capture as much of the stormwater and keep it for local use as non-potable water. I thought those were good efforts.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Sydney. Do we want to have do you need to have the developer come up? Do we want anybody have questions for the developer?
Oh, this is a work session, so
Oh, we don't,
they will on the public hearing, though.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, all right, then, I guess we're
Wow.
good to go. Thank you. All right, looks like I don't see there's any new business, Larry? No? Okay. Information reports, the chair has no information for the commission this evening. Director's report, Larry?
Well, I promised to show you that video. I guess we'll do it at a different time. Did everybody go look at the video from the state planning conference?
I did.
You did see
Yeah.
it, so we don't have to show it. Bryant showed it at the council meeting for the award for the general plan.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, hats off to Joel. That was all Joel on that general plan. Actually, it was all Sydney, but Joel's our primary proofreader, so. Sydney was the project manager on that, just as he has been on this, and just doing above the highest effort. So thank you, Sydney, for the general plan again, and the teamwork we had on that, so. That's all I had. Yeah, Rudy's at the conference now. Joel was there. Joel was at the conference, the state planning conference this week, learning some planning stuff. I think he calls it planning stuff.
Sorry, I'm not on the agenda. I can't.
Oh, you can't
I can't
respond?
reply, no.
All right. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. All right. Selection of meeting dates, times, locations, and purpose. Do I have a motion?
I move the Planning and Zoning Commission hold a regular meeting on September 14th at 7 PM in the City Council Chambers located at 300 Superstition Boulevard. In the event there is no items to be brought forward to the commission, this meeting may be canceled. Notification of cancellation properly posted and the commission notified by staff.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Roll call. Larry?
Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage,
Yes.
Commissioner Barker,
Yes.
Commissioner Begeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cantwell,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hanchey,
Yes.
Chair Heck.
Yep,
Motion carries.
very good. Thank you. All right.
Just
so-
for information,
whoop.
I will probably miss that meeting because I'll be out of town
Oh, that's going to be in Connecticut or where?
in Vermont.
Oh, Vermont, right, okay. Okay, very good. All right, thank you. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Wow, that was short.